Welcome back. The title of this mini lecture is The Great Depression, Part 2. So, we're going to talk about 5 terms that, as you read more kind of about this period, they're helpful for you to kind of get a sense of how the history of sport and gaming kind of fits into American cultural life at this time. So, let's get into it. All right. So, 1932, Roosevelt is elected president for the first time. He comes into office in March of 1933, and he comes into office with what's called the New Deal. All right. And so this is our first term, is the New Deal. Now, the New Deal is a comprehensive series of programs that the Democrats and FDR wanted to enact as a way of kind of reframing and reshaping and kind of shoring up, to paraphrase, kind of the historians on this. David Kennedy and others, have great works, on this period that are good to consult. Alan Brinkley as well, is a great scholar on this period. And there's many more. Now, the intention behind this, again, is to shore this up. And so you're going to have a lot of legislation that is enacted in what's called the first 100 days of FDR's administration. And the New Deal, while it might sort of, with things like the FDIC and others, provide some measure of attempting to shore things up, it doesn't necessarily, kind of reframe the economy and sort of end the rising levels of unemployment, that had hit the country. And so this brings us to our second term. So by 1935, you're going to see a new sort of series of programs, and this becomes known as the Second New Deal, where you're going to target things eventually like Social Security, is going to come out of this, and others. So, really throughout his presidency and in the 1930s, right, what you're going to see is an activism on the part of the Democrats often to try to be able to do things. Now, this isn't without controversy. This isn't without potential difficulty. This is the development of, very much, some historians will argue this is the development of, the rise of a broker state or sort of this kind of thing. And you can certainly look at, the racialized realities of the Democratic Party in the 1930s and the gender bias that existed within the Democratic Party and the country in the 1930s, certainly, within this time period. So this isn't without, conflict and difficulty, sort of within this, within this time. This does bring us to our third point, which is the CCC. All right, so the CCC stands for the Civilian Conservation Corps. So this is one of these programs that was enacted during the era of the New Deals. The goal was to essentially get young men working. And there was this connection to working, essentially outside or in nature. And so a lot of the posters, a lot of the art, a lot of the imagery from this period, and this is why I mentioned this for a class with the history of sport and gaming, is that you're going to emphasize, the CCC is emphasizing physicality. They really are emphasizing physicality. They're emphasizing the restorative sort of elements of being outside of nature. And this is very much aimed at men, at young, men at this time. So there's certain gendered biases that would exist, within this period. But the CCC employs a number of young men where the idea is that they're going to take most of that pay. It's supposed to go home. They're going to be well fed. The idea is that they're going to have a lot of working physical labor, and working to rebuild, or even to build, parks, right? Sort of this kind of thing, along with many others. There's another term for us, the WPA. So the WPA, right, this Works Progress Administration. So the WPA is also a part of these new deals. And again, same thing is to put people to work. But the WPA is think of as sort of a relatively open sort of intergovernmental process of either, constructing things locally or even providing almost, funding, akin to what, or similar to what like a rec department, like a local rec department might today. So if you, like, for example, in the town that I live in, if you go by the old concession stand building that is there on next to the Little League ball field, you'll see that it was built by the WPA. That kind of thing. So you're going to see certainly connections to public sport that the WPA is very actively engaged with. Now, this brings us to kind of our fifth point, which is imagery, right? So posters, films or others that connected this really emphasize the idea of the restorative nature of work, its connections to the body, and kind of the physicality sort of with a lot of this. And you're certainly going to see this connected to this sort of, effort at economic recovery, throughout this time period. All right. Thanks so much.